Hello and welcome to the live FPL podcast by Fantasy Football Hub, the only place to be at 8 p.m. on a Monday evening. We are in the midst of a so far underwhelming game week 26 due to the Premier League winter break, but all is well as Adam Hopcroft is back after being yellow flagged last week. Adam, did it hurt not making last week's podcast with Ben and FPL Roycer?
It did, but I must admit I did get to listen to it the following day in the car and really enjoyed both of their thoughts. So every cloud has a silver lining, and it's good to be back for this week.
Indeed, and welcome back, Adam. We also have Andy back. Andy, were you hit hard by the City news?
Not at all, really. And as I say, we still don't know when it's going to be played. But I only had KDB, and I've got a decent bench at the moment, so not a big issue for me.
Same. You're getting a lot of welcomes back in the chat, Adam. Just so you're aware,
that's nice to hear.
Being shown a bit of love. So as this week's key themes are largely dominated by Man City uncertainty and lucky Lundstrom owners, we will talk through our team's plans as a lot the chat should resonate with many FPL managers out there watching and listening. Please feel free to comment at any time. In such uncertain times, it would be great to get ideas and insight from the community. We will then wrap up with a live Q&A at the end. Please give us a wave or a hello in the live chat. Tell us where you're from. And as I say, if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to ask. We'll try and pick some out. So firstly, Man City. Just to give our latest understanding on the Man City v West Ham rearrangement from various Twitter sources, we saw that Riyad Mahrez was going on holiday. We saw Sergio Aguero and his wife on holiday somewhere, not in Manchester. You can tell that because of the weather. We were then told on Twitter that they are away till Saturday, I believe, so there was no chance of a midweek game this midweek. And then we were told that there is no chance they will play next weekend. So the latest tweet I've seen, and this is from Man City Extra, so it's at City_Extra. This was sent at 6:10 p.m, so around about an hour and 50 ago. This seems to be the latest one. Please let us know, guys, if there's been anything going on since. But Manchester City's game with West Ham could be played as early as next week if an arrangement with the Premier League can be thrashed out. Wednesday the 19th of February has emerged as a potential new date for the game. So this is the same Twitter account that brought us a lot of the news yesterday, and I also saw that their following has increased from 15k to 50k overnight, so they've definitely
I think to add some balance to that, Andrew, I've just seen a tweet from one of the West Ham guys I follow on Twitter saying that it is being discussed, but West Ham are keen to have the same break as other teams because they don't want to be at a disadvantage. So, which I think it makes sense from their perspective. I think that the whole thing is City probably want the game to go ahead. West Ham are probably less keen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But do you know what? We have no say in it. It is out of our control. So let's just enjoy whatever happens.
Just give a shout out to a few guys in the chat. So we've got Nathi from South Africa. We've then got Mike from Yorkshire. We've got Alexander from Serbia. Olalua, excuse my pronunciation, guys, from Malaysia. Gideon from Texas. Joe Morgan from Texas. So two Texans on. So again, a real global audience. Great to have you on, guys, and we hope you enjoy. Just to follow on then from that Man City view. So the latest we've had from Ben Krellin, who was, of course, on this podcast last week. So his last tweet, I guess I'm 50-50 on Man City versus West Ham staying in game week 26 now. So he's probably talking about Wednesday next week. Likeliest date within 26 is Wednesday, February the 19th. If it doesn't stay in 26, then a double game week for Man City in 29 would be very likely. And he tweeted an hour or two ago. So he's quoted the Mirror. Mirror Sport understands the most likely date for the rescheduled match is next Wednesday. So Wednesday, February the 19th, according to media sources, is looking likely. But, as Adam says, we don't know. We can't influence it. And it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, one of the things to point out there, actually, I think it'd be a sigh of relief from Aguero owners, in particular captainers, that it might be slotted in within game week 26. But actually, Man City, if let's say it is the 19th of February, Man City then play Leicester on the 22nd of Feb. So if that is the date, and I'm sure we'll find out soon if it is, for fans arranging travel, etc., this might be the last week that you have Aguero in your team, simply because I doubt that he plays against Leicester, because he's obviously got Real Madrid on the 26th. And then, of course, we roll into the blank in 28. So, of course, you'd rather him play against West Ham than Leicester away. But this could be the last week for owners, I think, if it does get slotted in 26.
Very good point, Andy. And just to answer Marco's question, yes, so if it's next Wednesday, that means it would be in game week 26. So your current team as it stands now would benefit or not from that happening. So that's the latest. If we do get anything else, or anyone on the chat gets anything else in the next 45 minutes or so, please let us know. So moving on with the podcast then, the first thing we're just going to touch on, so we've got up the hub fixture ticker, and we're just going to look at the next six game weeks to see what it kind of tells us in terms of which teams have got the best fixtures. Obviously it's got the blanks as well, so just for our audio listeners, top of the tree in terms of the best fixtures for the next 6 are Southampton, so they've got Villa, West Ham, Newcastle, Norwich, Arsenal and Watford, so those first 5 from attacking view especially are looking really good. We've then got Wolves, who've got Norwich, Tottenham, Brighton, West Ham, Bournemouth and Villa. We then have Newcastle, Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Leicester and Liverpool. And then the bottom 6, I can't actually see 1 second, I do apologise guys. The bottom 6 then are Man City are bottom. Then there's Villa, Everton, Watford, Man United, West Ham, Brighton and Bournemouth. So Adam, what are your initial thoughts looking at those fixtures in terms of any potential moves, large scale or not, you'll be looking at for your team for the next few weeks?
I think you mentioned Southampton to start with. I think with them being out the FA Cup, if you don't have Danny Ings, I'd probably look to get him in ASAP. I don't think he'll show any signs of slowing down. I like Wolves fixtures, but then I think you've also got to factor in that the Europa League will be back, and there could be the odd change here and there. Who else do I like? I think to be honest, I wouldn't. I think with where I'm at the moment, I'm also trying to consider players that have got a game in 31 because I don't really want to waste my free hit or my wild card. Yeah. So probably looking at that, Wolves are the best team. Burnley possibly, but I think that might be some, the likes of Charlie Taylor, Pope. If you were trying to strengthen players, or even Wood.
Okay. And how about you, Andy? Is there anything that jumps out for you there?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Top of the charts there, Southampton, Wolves. I've got 3 of each in my team, and Liverpool, of course. I think you'd be looking to have 3 Liverpool players in. That game week 31 though is obviously a key fixture for Liverpool. If you've got 3 of their assets, they need to get knocked out of the cup by Chelsea. My current thinking is they're not going to play as weak a team as they've been playing. But I doubt they'll play a full-strength team either. So it'll probably be a bit of a mix and match. And hopefully Chelsea can do the business for the early wildcarders and knock them out. And then, as Adam said, you don't have to play your free hit in 31.
Sure. Just to answer Alawoa's question, so he asks, does the hub fixture ticker rank these teams according to how the fixture favours attack or defence? This particular view is actually on attack, but you can do it by defence as well. So if anyone's interested in that, look at the details of how to join at the bottom of the screen, and you can do anything you want with these fixtures in terms of chopping the data up any way you want. So moving on to your team first then, Andy. So if you could just read out your team for the benefit of the audio listeners and then talk us through it.
Yeah, so as I said, I wildcarded in 25. So my first 11, if you like, is Henderson in goal with Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold and Egan as the back 3. Then I've got Grealish, KDB, Salah, Traore and Ings, of course, in there. I think every wildcarder would have him in. Ings, Jimenez and Aubameyang up top. And then my bench is pretty strong, as most early wildcarders would have. I've got McCarthy in there for the potential bench boost in 29. Stevens from Southampton as well. I've got Moy in there currently. And Bowley to complete the Wolves triple up. So At the moment, although my team looks pretty good for a 27 bench boost, I'm still on the trajectory of the 29 bench boost, where, I just have what I feel is kind of the optimum strategy for my 3 Southampton, my 3 Wolves, my 3 Liverpool players. A couple of changes I will be making. I actually didn't go for the Sheffield United triple up with a view to being able to be a bit more flexible through 28. And obviously 31, as I said, will depend on the likelihood of using the free hit. But I'll probably be looking to bring in Watford players over the next couple of weeks. So my sort of plan at the moment is to do Grealish and Moy, probably to Sarr if he's back, or Doucouré. That gives me more options for 31 because, of course, they have a fixture in 31. And the one question mark over my team is I've currently got Aubameyang, who, despite obviously terrible set of finishing, he still had 2 big chances in the last game. Now, if you look at the fixtures up after 28, when of course he has a blank, he actually plays West Ham at home in 29 and Birmingham away in 30. However, Leicester, of course, their fixtures turn. They've got Norwich away, Villa at home in 28 and 29. So the big question mark for me is, do I stick with Aubameyang or do I kind of go back to Vardy and pick him up for those fixtures? Now, clearly Arteta's not playing a free-flowing attacking game, but Aubameyang's still getting the chances. Yes, he is playing in the wing, but when they're attacking, Kolasinac or the left winger, whoever it is, Saka, is filling in for that left wing spot, and Aubameyang seems to be heading more centrally. So the big dilemma for me is, do I keep Aubameyang for 29-30, or do I switch back to Vardy for 28?
If you didn't have Moy, Andy, and you had a different player there, maybe with a better fixture, would you be tempted to bench boost this week? Because you've obviously got McCarthy and Stevens, who are home to Villa, Bolly at home to Norwich. You probably couldn't get better defensive fixtures than those. Would you be tempted?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I was aiming for 29 was I just felt that Newcastle and Brighton were just better fixtures than Villa and Norwich. I mean, Villa, let's be honest, have improved. I know Adam's probably the expert in that, but Norwich as well, with Pukki up there, they can score against anyone these days, and Wolves haven't exactly been solid. So I just preferred the look of 29, and so I kind of
I'd agree with you I'd agree with you strongly on 29. I think Villa will score at Southampton, and I think I would say that Brighton. Is it Brighton and Burnley? No,
it's Newcastle and Brighton for Southampton.
Yeah, I mean they carry a lot less attacking threat in my opinion than probably Norwich and Villa. So I think you've got the right decision there. I think you can obviously wait and see what happens this week in terms of the Vardy Aubameyang decision, and it gives you the luxury of seeing, is Vardy playing himself into some form of form? What's Aubameyang like? Is he, because Arsenal have been a little bit, I mean, they've shored up defensively, but they haven't been very ruthless and in attack. They haven't looked like scoring 3 or 4 in a lot of the matches. They've been a lot tighter. But I think, if they're going to score, Aubameyang's got a good chance of being involved. One question I've got for you, Kevin De Bruyne. So, game week 28, he doesn't have a match.
Yeah.
There could be some good options that you could replace him with. Let's assume they don't have a double game week 29. What's your thought process? Would you get rid of him?
Well, obviously the Spurs, the natural move would probably be to a Spurs player. But then you've got to keep 31 in mind. So for me, always up what you're looking to do for 31. I mean, I think you've got. I mean, let's be honest. If Norwich and Everton is the only other game that's on that week, there's not a great set of fixtures there. So really, for the KDB move, I'd be keeping my eye on 31 more than anything. And that depends whether someone like Spurs, if Spurs get through, for example, then they're playing West Ham that game week. So then Son's a natural move.
What about Richarlison?
Well, I think it's one of the, when you're on a wild card, you look at all sorts of players.
Yeah.
I didn't really look at him, to be honest, just because that price point is quite awkward. I'm not obsessed with price points and saying, right, okay, if I'm going to take out De Bruyne and then I want to have Richarlison, they're different price points. But it's just a player I didn't really look at. But of course, now he's starting to look basically on fire. So, it's someone I'd look at, but just with that West Ham fixture in 31, Son would probably take it from me. We'll see. Again, I've got time, so I can think of it. But at the moment, he would still be in my team. I don't have any plans to take him out immediately. I hear you with regards to the fixtures, and if we do see that 19th of Feb game, then you possibly look at him and say, well, he's probably might not even play the full game against Leicester. I don't know, they might just sacrifice that one.
So you had Egan, Andy, and obviously there was, with all the stuff that happened yesterday, do you feel fortunate to have Egan, or gutted you missed out on Lundstrom or anything else?
Well, I think the Lundstrom thing on a wild card is a pretty easy decision to take him out because he isn't nailed essentially still, despite scoring that goal. For me, it was a budgetary concern because I couldn't reach to Baldock or Stevens. I probably would have gone for one of them. And actually, if you look at Egan, although he's not playing on the wing essentially like those other guys, he does have 5 shots in the last 6 games, which for a central defender, obviously he's got that set piece threat. So I wasn't too surprised actually that he finally got an attacking return. The Lundstrom thing, again, on a wild card, I think you have to take him out. And even if I still owned him, I'd still be considering taking him out. He might play the next game, but he's just not nailed. And when you can have other players for Sheffield United or other Southampton defenders at a similar sort of price point, you really are looking for a nailed-on player at this point in the season, I think. Sure.
Just a comment from Hornet in the chat. If Liverpool play game week 31, then free hit chip could be gold dust later on. I'm inclined to agree with that. Anything else there from your team then, Andy? Any further plans or thoughts? So you've got your captain on Salah at the moment for 27. Is it likely to stay on Salah? Are you not tempted by Ings or Jimenez?
I think Mane's going to be back, which potentially moves Salah back a bit more towards the right wing. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I think you stick with the form players, and West Ham at home doesn't get much better than that for a fixture. The one thing I would say is, getting this wild card out of the way and getting bench boost out of the way, potentially in 29, does leave you very much more relaxed and much more able to enjoy the game. But going forward to like 31 and 32, you're just able to structure your team for the first 11 and not have to think, right, okay, well, I need this playing sub. I really want, this 5.5 million defender that's going to be sitting on my bench for a couple of games. I just think it just getting your chips out the way early just enables you to strategize more effectively for the rest of the season.
I think you can do that if you know when you're playing your wild card and your bench boost. I completely agree with you. If you don't know when you're playing your bench boost, you've always got to feel I've got to keep a strong bench. I can't sacrifice stuff. I think if you've got a plan, like which you had a very, very clear plan, I think that does work. What's your plan? If you've got your free hit left, then is that right?
Yeah, obviously that would be ideally played during one of the double game weeks, probably 34, maybe even 37. Ben's take last week was that, well, actually, despite some of the main players not playing because it's towards the end of the season and maybe Champions League gets in the way, you can look at teams that are fighting to stay in the league.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But I think the difficult question will come is if Liverpool have a blank in 31.
Maybe to it, I was going to ask that exact question. So let's say Liverpool blank. What's your thought process then?
Well, then you're looking to see whether Norwich and Everton get the blank or not. And I mean, looking at my team there, I've got 3 Wolves players. I'll have two Watford players. Obviously, I need to switch my goalkeeper because probably most of them have a blank, and Henderson obviously is a Man United player, so therefore he'll get the blank as well. So I probably have to move to a Burnley goalkeeper. And there is the chance that I might just run with 8 or 9 players in game week 31 as well. I'll have to look at the fixtures and see which players I want. Royzer made the point, I think, last week that, if you get the key 9 players for that week, basis the teams that are playing, then, it might not be a bad shout and keep the free hit for a double game week when you can balance your team out a bit more. That'll all change, of course, if teams like Spurs, have a fixture against West Ham. Then I think you've got to be looking at playing the free hit to protect against the points hauls from Son and Moura or even Ali in that week. So I think to sum it up, if Liverpool are out of game week 31, then you need to be very cognizant of the fixtures. If it stands as it is, I might just run with playing 8-9 players. But if a team like Spurs gets through against West Ham, then I'll probably free hit.
Okay. So let's move then on to Adam's team. So again, Adam, if you could run through your team and then any thoughts?
Yeah, it's in a desperate state. It does need a wild card, which I'm reluctant to play. So my team at the moment, so I've got goalkeepers are, I think who it is now, I've got McCarthy, who's got good fixtures, and he'll just be set and forget and button. Back line of Lundstrom still kept in, but he's second on the bench. Rico, who else have I got? Trent, of course, Stevens and Kelly. And then I've got a midfield of KDB, Salah. I've kept Mane and kept the faith with him. Super Jack Grealish and Cantwell. And then up front, Vardy, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and who's the other person that I've got?
Ings.
Ings, that's it. So I think at the moment, I think a week ago I was very, very close to wildcarding, and actually I was out with my son on Saturday, and I put my phone. We went to this trampoline park, and I put my phone in a locker so I couldn't access it before 11:30. And then 11:20, like, Dad, I want to leave now, like 10 minutes before. And obviously I picked up my phone. I had the urge to transfer in Aguero and Son, which I nearly did. And obviously I'm glad, but I would have done it with the pretense that I would have been wildcarding this week. But yeah. I thought I'll stick to my plan. So my plan at the moment is I'm going to try and get through and navigate at least up to 31 when there's blank game week. Ideally, I would like to not play my free hit then. It depends on the games. I think if there's 3 games and Liverpool don't play, I will not free hit. Because I think the 3 games you can guess the players. I think if there's 4 games without Liverpool, I'll consider it. And then I will wild card either 32 or 33, which I think I originally said I was going to do that, and I'm going to stick with it. And then I will bench boost in one of the double game weeks and free hit in the other. And it's just the aim to have a really strong finish to the season.
So if let's say you've got 5 free transfers left before 31, let's say Liverpool get through.
Yeah.
Or rather have a blank. So therefore,
yeah.
Who would be the sort of targets you're looking at for 31?
It's really difficult. So I haven't got the Wolves players yet. So I suppose the Wolves players are quite easy for me to bring in at the moment. I don't think we'll know until 29. So I'll probably end up keeping Calvert-Lewin as well. I'd say if there's a good chance, there's a possibility that Everton could play Norwich. Son possibly, but then again, we don't. I think that at the moment, it's probably only the Wolves players that I would target. So Bowley, what a plan is this week? I've got 2 free transfers. I think I can do Kelly to Bowley or Bolly. So I think that's a bit of a no-brainer. Quite a good week to bring you in. And I might save the second free transfer. Originally, I was going to this week. I was actually going to take De Bruyne out for Leicester and bring in and take Calvert-Lewin out and do Jimenez and Traore in for free. Because I've got doubts, and particularly I think you've got it spot on with what you said, Andy, earlier. I've got the doubts about De Bruyne's minutes if the West Ham game gets moved against Leicester. I think he might get 60 minutes, but I'm not that optimistic. And I think we're looking at De Bruyne's fixtures going forwards, or say Man City's, they're not that great. And plus we've got to factor in, they've got a couple of blanks, and given the number of fixtures they've got coming up, the chances are that there's no guarantee that any player will play in the league games. So I've got no fear. I think sometimes I wish I played FPL more like I played Sky. In Sky, I'll have no Man City. I got rid of Kevin De Bruyne in Sky, and I don't fear it at all. And I think I'm a bit envious of my Sky management versus my FPL management, because I think that's probably why I'm doing better at Sky at the moment.
I think it's because the ownership isn't like thrown in your face a lot. I think we mentioned this last week, didn't we, about this effective ownership all the time. It's you're almost scared to make moves in FPL, whereas in Sky, because it's not so apparent and in your face, you tend to play your own game a lot more. It's an interesting one for maybe an end of season review when we look at what we're going to do better next year, maybe.
I mean, the other option I've got, which I have considered as well, I'm going to watch the Liverpool, I think the Wolves Leicester game. I'm going to watch that with a view of watching both Jimenez and Vardy. Depends how Vardy looks. If Vardy looks out of sorts, I'll consider selling him. I know he's got good fixtures coming up, but what it will allow me to do is bring Jimenez in for Vardy. I like the look of Harvey Barnes. I can then have a bit of fun with some players like Pereira at Leicester. I think he could do quite well in the coming up fixtures. Yeah. I might even be able to go for the likes of Doherty then as well.
He's my move.
Well, let's say it all goes to plan and you don't have to play the free hit in 31. That means you can play that in 34, 37. When's the wild card?
It'll be 32 or 33. I'm quite relaxed. So I will do, if I can get away and doing it at 33, I will do. Because I think, but if not, I'll do it at 32. I think it's close enough to the double game week. So,
and is that because of you'll know the double game week, or is that because of fixture turns?
Bit of both. I think I will wait for information on the double game week. So I've not researched it. I know it is 32, 33. So I'll wait for I want to have as much information as possible. And I think that it's been very, very tough not to wildcard. But then I think back to earlier in the season when I did wildcard, I think having patience with some of these players can work out. So I think the guys that kept with Lundstrom and started him, that's worked out this week. I think Calvert-Lewin's somebody that people probably look to get rid of, but I don't know. I think he could do okay. So I'm going to try and stick patient where I can. I'm thinking a Man City exit could work out okay. And do you know what? I might not even go back to KDB for the rest of the season. I might look at the likes of Mahrez, Sane, Sterling, and mix it up a little bit. Because I think he'll be used more in the Champions League.
A couple of comments in the chat, sorry. So S. Wall wouldn't say that team desperately needs wildcarding, and Hornet FPL agrees. Jimenez and Bolly, which I think you've mentioned Bolly anyway, I'm not sure about Jimenez. Yusuf might go into game 31 with 8 or 9 players starting only. A question from AK: if the West Ham game gets rescheduled for game week 29, making it a double game week, would you keep double City attack throughout their blanks? I notice you haven't got double City attack.
Yeah. I think so. At the moment, what I quite like, because I've got most of the chips in play, I can react to what happens. So if we find out Man City have a double game week in 29. Forget selling KDB. My plans will completely change. Yeah, of course. But at the moment, looking at their fixtures, and even the Burnley game, which looks probably the best on paper, it's just before the home game with Real Madrid. And I think City will comfortably finish in the top 4. And I don't think they care about finishing second or third.
So I suppose, well, actually, I think the question from AK, so it sounds like he's got double City attack. If they blank in 28 with a double in 29, would you hold the City attack through? Through?
Yeah, I think 28? If you can do,
I think you have to, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think if you can do.
Yeah, over the 2 games, let's say they do get the double, you're going to think Aguero's going to start one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Mahrez is going to start at least one, probably 2, and an average score over those 2 games could be huge with that West Ham game.
Yeah, and
to be honest though, they're the sort of things where I think it could be. If there's a high ceiling player to bring in 28, let's say you haven't got Mane, for example, for third Liverpool, it could be worth doing a bit of a hokey cokey, because I think if you're looking at high ceiling players, you can get away with that. So you could do like I don't know, if you've got the funds in the bank, Mahrez to Mane or someone with a decent fixture, and then reverse it back the following week, so you benefit from both sets of matches.
Okay. Just a comment as well from Hornet FPL. KDB to Son, blanks and bad fixtures.
I've considered Son, and I nearly bought him in this week. The only thing, I think he's a little bit expensive for what he's producing at the moment. I think was he 10 million, and his fixtures aren't brilliant. I'll be watching him the weekend, so I'll be able to. But what I have liked about Son is he's found a way to get points recently. Yeah. So he's not killing it on the stats at all. But I think throughout this season he's been consistent in terms of getting goals and assists in the majority of games that he's been in.
Okay.
So he is an option. I think the problem I've got, if I didn't have Mane, I would be more likely to do it. But with Mane, it takes up so much more of your budget that you've just got to be a little bit more selective with midfielders.
Okay then, so moving finally onto my team then. So for the benefit of our audio listeners, I have Henderson and McCarthy as my goalkeepers. I have Alexander-Arnold, Lascelles, Lundstram, Webster, and Tanganga as a back five. I brought in Jimenez and Tanganga this week. I've got Fleck, Salah, De Bruyne, Mane, and Hayden in midfield. And I have Jimenez, Ings, and Vardy up front. So I did wildcard in game week 24 because I didn't have any Liverpool attack. That was my plan. I think we discussed when to use a second wildcard, didn't we, around game week 21 or something. So my plan was always in 24 to do it. It's worked thus far. I appreciate the team at the moment doesn't look in the best of shape in terms of an overall squad to navigate the blanks. But I did make the decision a few weeks ago not to, and this completely kind of probably goes against 95% of engaged FPL players, and it was not to try and navigate through the blanks. And I've got reasons for that, and my main reason was so every season, I spend hours on spreadsheets, on that planning every single move week to week. And what happened last year was basically I overdid it, I overthought it. I was planning moves for the doubles in the game weeks, which were in the 30s last week. So I think it was 31 with the blank, 33 wildcard, 34, 37. So for game week 24 and 25 onwards, I was making moves with those plans in mind. I didn't go back and work out what happened exactly, but I definitely lost between 150 and 200 points by manoeuvring players around to try and make sure that I nailed those game weeks. And as we know, if anyone remembers to what happened in the game weeks last year, 31, it was like free hit heaven. The fixtures were incredible. The scores were shocking. I think the average was like between, I can't remember exactly, between 60 and 80, and even the doubles in 34. Appreciate some players it's 100 points, but I've seen in the past. I hit 201 4 or 5 years ago. Nowhere near those kinds of numbers because teams are rotating more, and I even in 31 and 34, if I'd have kept my original teams, I would have scored more points. And this is it's kind of what happens, and it makes you a bit ill. So this year, I wildcarded in 24. I pumped a lot of money into my premium. So, I've obviously got Salah, Mane, and De Bruyne, and Trent, which I'm kind of happy with. I didn't really think about 28 or 31. I've obviously got them in mind. I did enjoy last week's podcast, and Royce has certainly put the 29 bench boost in my mind, though I have got two Newcastle players, Lascelles and Hayden. They're away to Southampton. It's probably not the best fixture. This coming week now, I'm probably look to captain Salah, though I have got Jimenez and Ings, as I mentioned to Andy earlier. I'm very, very tempted to maybe have a lump on one of them. And then, moving forward into 28, I'll have a decent team. And then, onwards then 30, when wherever. I'm just kind of at the of the mindset at the moment. What will be. There was also a game, Andy, I don't know if you remember this, it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, when it was a Monday night game, Spurs and Stoke, and I had Kane and Ali in my team, and I took them out for a double game week match and players, and it was 4-0 to Spurs, and Kane scored 2 and Ali scored 2, and I think they even assisted each other. And after that I was just like, I can't be doing with this. So
well, your team doesn't look in that bad shape, given that, ahead of 31 you've got 5 transfers now, so you can negotiate around that.
Yeah. And just to touch on Lundstram, so it's a bit of a Twitter storm yesterday. So I played Lundstram, I started Lundstram, and I got a different angle on Lundstram to a lot of players. A lot of people were saying that it was lucky, it was poor play, it was casual play, but I can assure you I spent a lot of time on this game, a lot of time thinking about this game, and my kind of take on Lundstrom was, okay, he may have started, he may not. When he played the last game, he came on roughly the 60th minute. He came on, he played very, very well. Obviously, they've signed Sander Berg. I wasn't sure whether he was just playing him as the new signing and then put Lundstrom in again. There was a lot of positive chat from Wilder about Lundstrom as well. And I even thought, if he doesn't start and he comes on in the 60th minute, as kind of it happened, I think he came in the 62nd, they've probably got one of the best attacking fixtures of the season anyway. So for me, and probably for many other managers who started him, I would guess, it was very much a calculated risk, knowing the downside. But if you look at my bench, so I had Hayden, Lascelles and Webster on the bench. I didn't have a better option anyway, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. He's playing okay, he's back on form, it's a good fixture, and as it happened, it paid off. I do count myself, as a slightly fortunate, but on the same note, it was a calculated risk. It wasn't, casual play, forgot about my team. So I just got to kind of get that in there because, everyone always says, everyone's advice is play your own game, pick your own plays, etc. And that's exactly what a lot of players did yesterday, including myself. And it came off for once. I've had a lot worse luck than I have had good. So
Andrew, basis that, like, obviously he may start against Brighton at home after the performance.
Yeah.
For the last 29 minutes there. Would you? And then he's got the blank in 28. I mean, the question mark is obviously he's most likely not nailed on now in the team. So would you be looking to move him on, or are you just keeping him there as a kind of cheap, probably can't buy him back if you sell him, potential kind of goal scorer, super sub, doesn't play every game? I mean, what are your plans there?
So my plans are at the moment, so I bought him for 4 million. He's still, if you look, if you regard it like that, the cheapest player in the game, or close to. He's got a home fixture against Brighton. I think there's a decent chance again he'll start. If he doesn't start, it's likely he'll come on in the 60th minute. Brighton's defence are pretty hopeless at the moment, so I'll be playing him again, and if he returns, I'll count it as a calculated risk. If he doesn't return, I'll see it as a calculated risk that didn't work out. But I think I see him the same as Mahrez a little bit. There's a lot of Mahrez owners, saying how lucky they were that the Lundstrom owners got their points. But when Man City teams are out on Twitter, I bet you there's a lot of Mahrez owners are relieved when he starts rather than devastated when he doesn't, because he's the kind of player, he doesn't start many. Lundstrom, 4 million I bought him for. He's got the he's got the potential for a 15 pointer as he's had earlier in the season. So at the moment I'm playing him. When we come to 28 and 29, I'll take a look. Obviously, Webster is a bit of a thorn in my side. I brought him in on wild card when Brighton were defending well. They're not doing well at the moment, but I think I'd want to get rid of Webster before I get rid of Lundstrom, because even after that blank, their fixture is still very, very nice.
Are you boys both gonna? You both got Salah Mane. I mean, obviously 31 is a big part to play in this, but given that's a formation I had for a while. Given that, let's be honest, the league's going to be over by mid-March. I mean, are you guys tempted to keep them in there? Or are you thinking, right, come when the Champions League kicks in, or do you think Klopp's just going to go all out and play them consistently through the Premier League?
I think he'll keep them playing. I think momentum is such a big thing in football that he'll keep them fresh. I think he will make the odd rotation, but I think Liverpool will be motivated to win the league in style. And depending on how they get in, let's assume they go out the FA Cup, I think they can manage it with the squad that they've got. There will be the odd rest. I think the advantage of having Mane and Salah, having thought about this, is at the start of the season, I think we talked about it on one of the earlier pods, if you looked at their scores, they very rarely haul in the same week. The chances are Klopp will play at least one of Mane or Salah. If the other one doesn't start, I think it increases their chances of a haul. So I think there's if I think we've seen Salah's record when Mane doesn't start is pretty phenomenal recently, and I think likewise for Mane as well. So I think the last one was the Everton game, and he looked pretty good dominating it then. So that's why and I think Liverpool, when the pressure's off, they might give away a few more chances. It'll be about entertaining. So maybe double defence may not be the way to go. it is expensive having both, but I think I've got them now, and I think if a change, I'm just going back to what most people have got, like two defence and So I think it's worth sticking there if you've got both of them.
Yeah, I think if you've got, so obviously I've got Salah, Mane and De Bruyne as well. I just like it because it gives you so many short-term options or pivots you can do. So I can really, really quickly now move up to Aguero. In two moves. If I wanted. So say they have the double in 29, I can and get rid of Mane or Salah, for example. But I can also get them back later by taking out De Bruyne to get them back, etc., or taking out Aguero. So I quite like having those three premiums there, because you can quickly move to to kind of where the action is as well. In terms of whether they'll play, I'm not sure they'll play every week. I think they'll play most weeks, as Adam says. I think that momentum is really, really important, but I do also see them giving games to the likes of Shaqiri, Origi and wherever else as the season wears down. Obviously all depends on the Champions League and whether they stay in as well. Their game isn't easy. Every game in the Champions League is really difficult, so if they get knocked out on that, or the last 16 or the last 8 or whatever, we'd say what happens. But I'm really happy to have them in. I've noticed Mane's ownership has gone down to something like 17% or something at the moment, which is just crazy when you consider he was 50% and the most essential player in the game a few weeks ago. But yeah, please get your questions in the chat, guys. We'll be moving over to the live chat soon to go through some questions. Just some comments. So Sad Batty has said Lundstram has won his place back. I sincerely hope he has. A couple of comments from Romello. I have that team except Mahrez for Fleck. How have you got a 5 million more budget than I have?
Much richer than you.
Much richer than me, indeed. AK, you're looking to move Hayden on for someone better later when you use BB. Not the most exciting asset. I agree with that. Yeah, so, as I said, I've got no hard and fast plan at the moment. But, at the moment, I think he's probably, if you look at Newcastle's fixtures, I think from 28 onwards, they have a sea of green fixtures till the end of the season, so we'll have a look at that. Saying to move to Fleck, I've already got Fleck. AK can't say the new guy came right into the team and he's highly rated. Talking about Burge then, so I think there's a bit of contention over whether Lundstram has won his place or not. Okay then, so if we look to move on then to the chat screen, please guys, get in your questions. It's not very often you have people like Adam Hopcroft and Andy Green on. Please get your questions in for these guys. So question from Gravy Dave, I love that name, Dave, or Gravy as you affectionately call yourself. Would you keep DCL even though his fixtures are rubbish? I know Adam, you mentioned it. You'll be keeping him. Andy, what are your thoughts on that? Oh, sorry.
Well, I thought my original plans was DCL to Jimenez, but I think watching the game, I've watched quite a few Everton games recently, and one thing I noticed about him is he's always centimetres from across. Yeah. He's always, there's a shot, a rebound, and he's such a poacher in the 6-yard box. I think it's a side of his game he's really improved. And I think he's flourishing in the partnership with Richarlison. And I think Ferguson, who set that up, Duncan Ferguson, deserves a lot of credit because they play so well together. And I think the fixtures, I think, the Liverpool fixture's tough, but it's a derby. But they're actually looking at it. Arsenal away, I think they could do something there. I mean, actually, I'd argue that at the moment they're in better form and probably a better team than Arsenal at the moment. I think Man United at home, I would say exactly the same. I think they're a better team than Man United at the moment. And I think they've got, in Richarlison in particular, they've got the better, he was absolutely brilliant the weekend. So I think, for me, I think it's 66 million DCL. I think he's worth keeping. I think you're not going to get much better. And I think he'll score in some of those games. I don't think he's, so I think I'll probably keep at the moment.
Yeah, I'd be keen on the game week 28 and 29, Man United and Chelsea. Arsenal, though, probably a bit tougher to break down under Arteta. And Liverpool, of course, we all know what their defence is like. So if I owned him, or I did own him, but if I still owned him, I'd probably keep him till game week 32, because then he has Leicester and Spurs. But you've got Norwich in 31 as well. So again, at that price point, if you're not, there's probably bigger fires to fight in most people's teams than taking out DCL right now.
Andy, so Liverpool could win the league in 31. So Adam and I just gave our thoughts on it. But what are your thoughts on owning Liverpool players after game week 31 if they win the league?
Yeah, I think they're gonna want to finish in style and try and beat all records that they can. But my feeling is, as they progress through the Champions League, if they do, of course, that they might start to kind of, players like Alexander-Arnold, Robertson and Mane can be rested for Origi, I guess. And then you've got Shaqiri. Is Shaqiri back fit yet? He could be coming on for Salah occasionally. So I don't think it's worth taking them out, because these are all players who can, haul on any game week, as we've seen this season. But just be prepared for, the 30-minute sub appearance or the blank. So make sure you've got a bench to cover them. So no, I think you've probably got to have 3 Liverpool for the rest of the season.
I think they'll get the odd rest, but I think one of the other things to consider, particularly, we know Salah's quite greedy. He'll be after that golden boot, won't he? Coming towards the end of the season, and I think they'll need to keep momentum and keep sharpness. So I think they will miss the odd game, but then trying to predict what that game is going to be quite difficult. So I'm with you, Andy. I think just keep them and keep fingers crossed.
I think Man City is the harder one.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah,
it always has been. But now you've got Sterling coming back soon. You've got Sané coming back soon. So they've got fixture pile-ups. I think people who've still got the triple captainship are going to be thinking, "Here we go. This is Man City's time." But who would you play it on? I mean, given that, let's say they're still in the Champions League by then, you can't really pick one player who's going to play both games. KDB would be the natural fit, but when the Champions League comes and they're going to be out of the league by then, Champions League place secured for next season probably by then. So I just wouldn't want to trust it on a Man City player in a double game week.
I think we were spoiled last season when every match mattered and every goal mattered right up to the end. But it's not going to be the same this season. It'll be really interesting to see how it pans out, and it'll definitely be an experience for new players to FPL who've only been playing for a season or two. Question from Romello Naidu. Most essential player over the next 5 games? Really good question, that, Romello. Andy or Adam, have you got anyone to hand? I'm going to go for Ings.
I was going to say Ings, actually. I think in terms of essential, I actually don't think anyone's essential. And there isn't a single player that I think I absolutely have to have them. I suppose the only one that I probably wouldn't want to lose is Alexander-Arnold, my current team. I think everyone else, I think I could, if I had to make do without them, I could.
Yeah, I think Jimenez for the next 5 or 6 games, he's not blanking, and we know he can score against anyone. Wolves look very attacking. There's not a game there that really scares me.
Okay, question from Eero Oikarinen. Is Wolves triple up Doherty, Traore, Jimenez too much of 27 to 31? So I think we just said actually that they've got really, really good fixtures. I'm looking at Doherty actually, and I've got Jimenez. So no, I think that's a really good option. Andy, any argument there?
The only thing with Doherty, and I'd love to have him, is at that price point, he then changes the dynamic of your team, because you've got essentially assuming you've got a Liverpool defender as well in your team, if not 2, then you're starting to kind of get back to that heavy defence. Now, that's not so important in the next couple of game weeks. But when you're looking at some of the blanks and positioning your team for, let's say you don't have to free hit in 31, those funds could come in useful for, let's say Southampton defenders, Sheffield United defenders. So, it's just a tricky price point for me, unless, of course, you have one of these team values that's north of 105, 106 mil, and then it's probably not an issue for you. But I'm still down in the realms of like the 103, 104 these days.
Question from Jamie Lamming. I need to use my other free transfers to be able to. Oh, sorry, that's not a question. Way down.
Well, there's a question there about the Sheffield United goalkeeper. So if you have Henderson, should you be taking a -4? That's Jamie Lamming. Should you be taking a -4 or upgrade your goalkeeper for 28 and 31?
Okay. Question from Barry Coleman. Adam, do you think 3 mid-range strikers is the best way forward?
Yeah, I do. I think there's question marks with Aguero for will he play the games. I don't think Aubameyang is worth the extra money beyond. I think these few pictures are okay, but I just don't think he's worth the extra money. So I think the likes of Vardy, Firmino, Jimenez, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Ings. I think people, and even Chris Wood's got okay fixtures as well. I think picking from 3 from those lot would make sense to me.
A question from Jonathan is: should I transfer out Calvert-Lewin for Jimenez? Was all set to do so before his 11 points this weekend, but now I'm unsure. I personally would still say yes. Even though all Adam's points are very valid on Calvert-Lewin, I think Jimenez is just a different animal. I think he's probably the only player for me outside the top 4 or 5 who could start regularly in a top European team. He's on penalties, he's got the fixtures, so I would say yes. Any other views there, guys? Jimenez from DCL?
If you can do it for free, I think he's got better fixtures and will outscore him. I suppose it depends what you would do with the other funds.
Okay, Andy, anything there?
Yeah, I mean, I would. If it's one of the two, I would go for Jimenez over DCL. And just to answer Jamie Lamming's question about Henderson, I think Henderson's a great keeper to hold beyond pre and post the blanks. So I'd probably be looking to if you had to take a hit to do it, I'd be looking to bring in a playing goalkeeper, whether it's Pope at Burnley looks quite attractive because he is playing 31. So I'd be looking to keep Henderson over the blanks.
Okay, last few questions then as we look to wrap up. A question from Ninad: triple Southampton, Redmond, Ings and Long. Personally think that's a bit too much in the Southampton attack. Guys, anything there? Redmond's in Ings and Long as a triple attack?
I don't think I'd go for Shane Long. I know he's got a few goals recently, but I think Redmond's an interesting shout. I think he's looked okay recently. I think he could be good fixtures if he's in that 6 million bracket. So I do like the look of Redmond. I think that's a good shout.
Apologies.
Yeah, I think the defence. A lot of people are sitting with McCarthy right now. So you probably got to have one defender, and then you either go for the defensive double up, which stats wise looks okay, but on paper they haven't really kind of got the clean sheets recently. But of course, last game was against Liverpool. So you either go for. I think you've probably got to have 3 Southampton with the fixtures coming up. So it's either the defensive double up or Redmond and one of the defenders in Ings. Ings, of course, is the first name in your team sheet from Southampton.
Last question, and a bit of an interesting one. If Messi was in FPL, how much would you pay for Messi?
Depends on the other product. I would have him in regardless, and as long as I could afford enough players. I think if he was in FPL, he would be about 15 million.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I think he'd be up towards 15, 16, but he'd actually be quite boring because it would just be perma captain, I think.
It would be quite boring, but
Will's captaincy videos would be about 6 seconds long every week, wouldn't it? Go for Messi.
I personally would absolutely love to see him in the Premier League, and I think it'd be great for FPL as well.
Yeah, agree. Okay, so with all the talks of blanks and double game weeks, Fantasy Football Hub have got you completely covered. We have the ultimate guide free on the website on how to navigate the blanks and double game weeks, written by 6-time top 1k finisher Abdul Rahman, aka FPL Salah on Twitter, ably supported by double game week maestro Ben Krellin. We also have Ben's planning spreadsheets and FPL Jossie's fixture planner, all amazing tools that all Hub contributors use to navigate through the double game weeks and maximise chip use. So that is it from us this week. Many thanks to Andy and Adam as usual. Adam, where can we find you?
Hopcroft13 on Twitter.
And how about you, Andy?
At FPL Fantasy Guide on Twitter.
Okay, and my Twitter handle is at Fergie222. This video recording will be on this Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available in all major podcast libraries. If you like what you hear and see, please rate, like, share, subscribe, retweet. It all helps us get the word out and make sure you don't miss anything. All comments and feedback are very welcome, particularly around the live element of this and if it worked for you. Our Twitter handle is at FFH_HQ, and our podcast Twitter handle is at FFH_podcast. So please feel free to follow and to ask us any questions. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you will find everything you will ever need for fantasy football all under one roof, including player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, Opta stats, top player team reveals, and much, much more. If you fancy a free 7-day Hub membership trial, just go onto the website and sign up. The link is below in the description. Last week we did FPL Saturday Live again, where myself, Adam, and Rich Clark from the Hub did a live stream for the 3 p.m. games. It was great fun, especially when our captain Salah scored at the death. He got his brace. Due to the winter break, we'll be doing our next live show on Saturday, the 22nd of February. Please join us at 10 to 3 and join in the chat. It was great fun and very interactive. We're trying to get Andy on one of these weeks in the future as well, if we can. We will be back next week, where we'll be looking forward to game week 27 with Andy, Adam, and Fantasy Football Hub's FPL Jossie. So for those of you who's his planner, he is going to be on this podcast live next week, next Monday. We are very excited to have him on. In the meantime, we hope you have a good week, but far more importantly, a great second half to game week 26. All eyes on the City players' Instagram accounts. Good night.